Welcome to this session on how to choose engaging podcast topics. Now, we tried coming on earlier, but we had some challenges with our internet connection and we needed to sort that out. Now, when I say we, I mean I. so let's just get to it. It's midnight here, and I would like to dive right into the content without keeping you up later than I already have. Now we're talking about how do I choose an engaging podcast topic. This is a discussion that I have again and again with creators about which topic they should talk about and how they can, uh, choose the right topics. So we're just going to talk about it here. And if you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section or in the chat, and I will do my best to pull them in and answer them. Now, we're going to be talking about 10 creative podcast topics that you could consider for your podcast. All right. Now, your topics are the frame that helps you create engaging episodes. There are plenty of things you can talk about on your podcast. The world is full of content, and if you keep your eyes wide open, I'm sure that you'll find something to talk about. But we've listed a few things below to help you with 10 fresh ideas for a podcast. Now, at the end of this session, we're going to be presenting you with our ebook that covers over 100 fun podcast topics, quirky, controversial podcast topics, and more. So if you stay till the end, we'll let you know how you can get access to that piece of information. Now, before we dive into the 10 topics, or sorry, the 10 topics that we're going to be covering, I'd like to go over a simple topic selection framework, something that would help you identify the right topics and take advantage of your unique personality, your unique experiences, and pair them with the great topics available to you. Now, the first thing you need to consider is that you need to evaluate these topics based on your field of interest. Every one of us has a range of interests that we would like to cover during our conversations. These are conversations that we've had with friends. People have asked us questions, and most times the things that we discuss are connected with areas of interest, things that we're passionate about. So when you're thinking about a topic that you want to cover during your podcast, I'd like you to think about areas that you're passionate about, areas you love, areas you've researched thoroughly. I mentioned a few of them in the session that I covered in the area of what to talk about, during your while creating your podcast episodes. That is an earlier session. So if you would go back and go through it, I would have covered a few of these in that session. However, what I tell my friends that I try to encourage to go into content creation is that there's always this thing that keeps recurring again and again, a question, an area that people keep coming back to you again and again to talk about or to cover. So I usually ask that that people look into these particular topic areas and seek that sweet spot of passion, information, experience, and bring them together to evaluate that specific area of interest that you would be more comfortable discussing around or building your podcast around. The next thing to consider is that you need to think about your target audience. I talk about this a lot because many times you feel like talking about something that nobody wants to talk about. So you need to be sensitive to your audience. Don't just come up with topics that you assume would be a fantastic discussion when nobody is talking about it. So really think through that before you select a topic. Like for me, today I watched an episode of one of my favorite series, and I felt to myself, oh my goodness, I want to start a podcast discussing this series. But I don't sit around all day with my friends or with clients discussing TV shows or this series in particular. No matter how much I love a TV show, it doesn't work that way for me. So, in spite of the fact that I'm passionate about the show, I enjoy it, I could discuss a few ideas around the show, it's not going to be a viable podcast topic for me. So, um, and of course, my audience, nah. So these are things that need to be at the top of your mind when you're picking a topic. The next thing is you have to make your topic unique. Believe me, there must be 100 people on different platforms discussing this exact topic you're considering, but you need to make your topic unique. You need to filter it through your experiences, your uniqueness, your personality, and bring out that version of the topic that makes it special. And then finally, finalize your podcast topic. And in finalizing it, I mean, you've brought all of these 3 points together. You've refined it. You've made it unique. You've labeled it to suit your audience and to suit your personality. And now it's time to release it to the world. Okay, so let's have all of that in mind as we go through the 10 creative podcast topics that I will be presenting. Now, these topics have been extracted from the over 100 topics that I have in the resource, which I will be introducing at the end of this session. Number one creative topic is you could consider doing a behind the scenes of an industry. If you're in the movie industry, this is gold. This is something that people are interested in figuring out. If you're a part of an industry that is mysterious, and people would enjoy, a behind the scenes walkthrough of how that industry works, that would be fantastic. So try making a podcast that that explores one side of something you're familiar with, whether it's the movie industry, the publishing industry, or the go on at a specific Silicon Valley startup or Silicon Valley establishment or Wall Street or stock exchange, depending on your area of operations. Okay, so behind the scenes are really interesting. I remember when we used to buy DVDs. You remember those DVDs, and you'd buy a box of a movie, and they would always have the behind the scenes version where the directors and the cast would be interviewed while footage of the production of the movie would be on the screen. That used to be a favorite part of my DVD experience, because I was always curious, how are these things made? People would really love to be a part of that experience. Number two, you could take your listeners on a journey. It could also, be something personal. You're thinking about writing a novel, or you're thinking of learning to skydive or travel across the continent, or you're documenting your own experiences. These are um, a personal um, a personal journey that you decide you want to take your audience on. Now, if you're already a popular personality, it may work for you in a few years if you eventually become popular. Or If you're an influencer and you have a following and people just want to know what you're doing, you can decide to create this experience for your listeners. Tell them, okay, I'm taking a journey. It's going to take me a few weeks or a few months or a couple of years, but I would like to invite you to join me on this journey. And you release episodes every week, documenting how far along you are on your journey and some of the experiences that you faced. It demands a lot of vulnerability. So if you're going to be doing this, you need to be ready to open up to your audience and let them know what's going on in your mind as you're taking them through the phases of the journey. Number three, uh, play the part of a clueless newbie and podcast ideas for beginners. This really explores a topic that you know completely zero about. Uh, like maybe you're watching Star Wars for the first time or you're learning computer programming for the first time. Document your thoughts as you go along. A great example of this type of hilarious premise is the Potterless podcast, where the host is reading the Harry Potter series for the first time as an adult. So it's a great idea where you simply decide, I'm going to do something I've never done before, and I'm going to take people along with me. In fact, I'm thinking about creating a podcast kind of like this, where I take people on a journey along with me. I don't want to approach it like an expert or an authority. I'm someone who is on a journey of discovery, and I'm inviting people who equally want to be on that journey along with me. I'm thinking of doing that, but I haven't decided to pull the trigger on it yet. So many irons in the fire. And doing this is really important to me. So I wouldn't want to start anything that could potentially jeopardize what we're doing right now. So it's a thought, but you, this might be something that you might enjoy. Deciding that you want to go into something that you've never done before and you're in the same position as your listeners. You're discovering things for the first time. You're making mistakes while trying to pick up a new skill and so on. So there's so many opportunities. There's so many potential topics within this particular idea. It's exciting, and perhaps it will be something you would want to journey into. Now, number four, tell the same story from from different points of view. A podcast on that. Now, you would want to start. All right. So you would want to start a narrative podcast with a twist. Consider using a season to narrate a single event from the point of view of everyone involved. So let's say you're picking up stories, okay, from the news. I'm just spitballing. You pick up a story from the news and you decide, okay, you want to see, you want to tell the story from the different sides of the people involved, okay, and then you just maybe pick up the papers, do some research, and then you do an episode telling the same story from the point of view of different people who were part of that experience. Okay, now there are lots of ways this can pan out. It is a very interesting and creative approach to storytelling. I've seen one movie that did that. It was, I think, it was The Last Duel that had. It was, I think, it was Scott, and it featured. It featured. Oh, I don't want to start thinking of actors' names right now, but um, the story was being told from the perspective of three characters, and each of them had their motivations for doing what they did. So that could also be a great podcast idea if that's something that that you'd like to explore. Number five, deep dives, where you get into the nitty-gritty of your topic of choice by doing season-long deep dives. For example, Ringer's binge mode is beloved by fans. Ringer's binge mode, okay, is a podcast. So their fans love it for being an intensely researched and deep exploration of the creator's favorite franchises and book series, from Game of Thrones to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So what these creators basically do is they devote entire seasons to do a deep dive on specific um, uh, you know subjects that they would like to explore, whether it's a book series or it's franchise. They basically go deep into it, and they build a following by simply doing that. So number five is a great option if that's something that floats your boat. Number six, a day in the life of. Okay, so this is basically an interview where you cover uh, your male career or your boss or your friend, um, to learn what a day in their life is like, okay, in their particular profession. So if you have a friend who has an interesting job, or friends who have interesting jobs, you could literally each episode can be dedicated to interviewing them and walking through their day. For example, if you have a friend who is a surgeon, that's a really interesting conversation that I would like to hear. What's going on, through their minds. Now, most of these ideas require a lot of vulnerability, because if I'm listening to a podcast that revolves around something like this, I need to know that the people talking are not simply putting on a show, but they are actually taking me through their thought processes, their emotions. I'm living it out with them. So it's not just creating content and simply having a surface level expression of these ideas. It really has to cut deep and get into the nitty gritty of the entire experience. Oddly enough, people love to learn about other people's work, so that this podcast content idea could really be a quirky hit. So consider this if you have lots of friends with really interesting jobs. All right. So number seven, mystery theme. Want to keep your audience guessing? Have each season follow a secret theme. Tell seemingly unrelated stories and let the audience try to guess how they are linked until the reveal at the end of the season. All right. Now, um, this idea requires a lot of creative genius, because if you're going to take your audience on a journey where you can't necessarily predict where the story or the conclusion will lead, it's going to take a lot of creative maneuvering. And it sounds like something that I would love to see happen, where um, a series of stories or events are being pieced together, and at the end of the season we see where everything comes together. That sounds like a murder mystery, but I would like to see someone do something great like that. Number eight, business. Are you interested in entrepreneurial life? Use your podcast for interviewing successful founders and CEOs, and tips for business success. This is a relatively simple idea. You could interview successful businesses. In fact, that's really the way my podcast began. My podcasting journey began. I started out with interviewing people, but as the podcast evolved, um, that aspect happens, but only on occasion. So the business topic is really interesting, because you can touch um, different businesses, different industries. I particularly enjoyed how I built this, okay, with Guy Raz. It's an NPR podcast. I've listened to it for years. It's one of the podcasts that inspired me to go into podcasting in the first place, and it focuses on business. So, business is not boring if you tell the story the right way. Number nine, the how to podcast episode ideas. You can tackle this broad category from all kinds of directions. You might choose a topic you'll cover throughout your show, such as gardening and so on, or choose a different mini topic for each episode. So you basically take a skill or an activity and break down how these things are done. So it's a how-to episode where you break down um, um, skills or activities, and your audience follows along and listens. There are lots of things that could be covered, and of course, remember you should always bring your own personal flavor to these topics. And then finally, number 10, the book club or the book reviews. If you're in love with books, consider starting a podcast book club with your best friend or a rotating slate of guests. You could even interview the authors themselves if you can swing it. Now, this anybody can do. Anybody can do. Anybody that who reads. So if you don't read books, sorry, this is not for you. But if you read books, if you read and love books, this is right up your alley. If you have friends or a friend who also is as passionate um, about reading as you are, then you can actually invite them to join you as a co-anchor and do book reviews every episode. So this is something that is really simple. There's an abundance of books. There are millions of books out there, and there will be no shortage of books to review. So we've covered 10 titles. I'm not going to do a recap. This doesn't require a recap. We're just making suggestions about titles that you could pick up for your podcast. Go over them. But like we promised, we have resources that you could consider downloading. All right. So we have the 101 topics, simple podcast topic ideas. This is an ebook compilation that I put together because I was also doing research about topics, and I came across some of these ideas, and I decided, okay, I'm not the only one looking for topics, and I would like to put these together for people who are interested in having a plan for their podcast. So this book is available. You have 101 topic ideas in there. It's an ebook, so it's downloadable. If you're interested in getting this, leave a comment in the comment section, and we'll shoot you the link to get the book. The next piece of content, which will be very helpful, is the podcast episode outline templates. Now, when you create your outlines, or when you want to create your episodes, you need an outline that guides you through the episode recording. So this will give you a set of templates that will help you outline your episodes efficiently. You can identify your preferred format, plan your episodes, and script these episodes based on your podcast format. So it's a great resource that's still available, and you just have to send a message in the comment section, and we'll respond with the link to these resources. Then the 102 creative podcast topic ideas. Now, there's a difference between this resource and the 101 simple podcast ideas. The first one, really streamlined and straightforward. This one is where that brings out the edgy stuff. So this is where the edgy stuff is, the first resource has the really simple and straightforward, easygoing, conservative content. So depending on what you're looking at for, let us know in the comment section. Now, we have a Facebook group. Lots of people have been communicating within the event chat area, which advertises all the series of videos that we've been producing. But we actually have a Facebook group that is dedicated to serving you as you go on your podcasting journey. So the link is again going to be sent to you upon request. We don't want to spam the event group. We don't want to push content that hasn't been requested. So simply send a request in the comment section and we will make the invite link available to you. So please feel free to reach out to us for that piece of information. We also have our special Podcast Mastery membership website. Now, this website guides you on a journey from being a beginner at podcasting to becoming a master podcaster. Excuse me. So we intend to provide ongoing support, and you have access to over 2 years of resources on podcasting and content creation, all at your disposal. All you have to do is type a set of keywords in the search, and that keyword will go in all of the audio and video content that we have in our database and pull up the answers related to those keywords. You click on those particular search results, it takes you into the video or the audio and plays the exact segment that contains the answer to the question you're looking for. So, I mean, these are just a few things that are available in the Podcast Mastery membership site. And we also want to invite you to become a founding member. We're extending the founding member launch for another 10 days so that you will be able to settle in and take advantage of the founding member package. So if you're interested in signing up, let us know. We'll send you a link. And once you click on the link, you'll be taken to this page. This page would allow you to select the plan that you're signing up for. You will see the founding member plan, and then you select it and sign up for it. The advantage of being a founding member is that you get to pay the rock bottom fee of $20 per month. It will never go up. You will pay the $20 fee in perpetuity. All right, it will never go up. It's always going to be $20. Meanwhile, everyone else who signs up after this period will experience the fluctuations that take place because, hey, technology needs to be paid for, and many times as the cost of maintaining these platforms increase, we will need to raise the prices. But you as a founding member will never, excuse me, you as a will never be affected by these price increase. So, so I'm inviting you, please take advantage of the resources, take advantage of the Facebook groups, and take advantage of the Podcast Mastery membership website. Thank you again for hanging out with me, for going through the video. Look through the 10 titles. If these 10 titles don't do it for you, we have over 100 other titles or topics waiting for you in the resources. Let us know if you would like to have them, and we'll shoot the link over to you. Thank you so much for hanging out, and good night.